Hello, Buchanan County. I'm Colonel Evers, the commander of the Huntington District of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. The Huntington District and Buchanan County have been partners in reducing flood risks within the county since 2005, and we're pleased to embark on the next phase of flood risk reduction for Buchanan County with the receipt of $235.6 million of supplemental appropriations from the 2019 Disaster Relief Act. Additional great news is that this funding does not require the county to pay a cost share. It is at 100% full federal expense. This funding will allow for the planned relocation of Hurley High School outside of the floodplain and a floodproofing ring wall around the Career, Technology, and Higher Learning Center. It will also allow for the opportunity for voluntary floodproofing or acquisition of eligible residential and commercial structures. The Corps of Engineers in Buchanan County, whether the Board of Supervisors or the school board, have had a great working relationship in the past, and we look forward to continuing the partnership well into the future. I look forward to the opportunity to travel to Buchanan County to meet with you as this opportunity arises, but until then, please stay safe.
Hello, I'm Bob Peterson, Project Manager for the Buchanan County Non-Structural Flood Damage Reduction Project. I'd like to provide a brief history and description of this project. In April 1977, portions of the Buchanan County adjacent to the Leviza Fork, the Russell Fork, Knox Creek, and their tributaries were devastated by the flood of record. As a result of this flooding, Congress enacted Section 202 of the Energy and Water Development Appropriation Act of 1981, a non-structural flood damage reduction program that provides for protection against flooding such as that which occurred in 1977 to prevent future losses to the communities. This project encompasses those areas of Buchanan County except for the town of Grundy, which was addressed previously in a separate Huntington District flood risk management project. In 2003, the Huntington District completed the detailed project report that studied the affected areas and developed the government's most cost-effective plan. In April 2005, the Huntington District signed a partnership cooperation agreement with the Buchanan County Board of Supervisors that allowed us to participate in projects within the county. Prior to receiving the supplemental appropriations, this project had not been funded to address implementation of project features. Now that we have received funding through the 2019 Disaster Relief Act, we are excited to embark on this next phase for Buchanan County's flood damage reduction projects. The Buchanan County project includes those residential and commercial structures in the county that were flooded by the April 1977 flood and that are still eligible for either voluntary floodproofing, which is raising the structure above the flood level, or acquisition and demolition, which is purchasing and demolishing the structure if it cannot safely be floodproofed. The program is voluntary, but those who participate will benefit greatly with flood risk reduction for years to come. In a follow-on presentation, Mr. Charlie Rhodes, our Chief of Real Estate in Huntington District, will explain eligible landowners' floodproofing or acquisition process in more detail. I look forward to working with you as we assist the community in flood damage reduction. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Charlie Rhodes. I am the Chief of the Real Estate Division for the Huntington District Army Corps of Engineers. The Buchanan County project consists of two distinct voluntary elements, floodproofing measures and acquisition. For the next several minutes, I will be providing you with a general overview of the processes associated with these two elements. In addition to the link for this presentation that you have found on the website, you will also find several attachments for your review. The first is an acquisition booklet that discusses the acquisition of real property for federal programs and projects. The second is a relocations brochure that discusses your rights and benefits as a displaced person under Federal Relocations Assistance Program. Please take the time to review these brochures. I would like to thank you for taking the time to view this presentation, and you may be assured that my staff will exert its best efforts to minimize any impacts arising from your participation in this voluntary program. First, let's discuss program eligibility. In order to participate in the Buchanan County, Virginia non-structural project, you must meet one of the following criteria. Buchanan County residential and non-residential structures located along the Lavazza Fork of the Big Sandy River and its tributaries, which received first floor flooding during the April 1977 flood, or any residential or non-residential structures constructed before the PCA was signed April 29, 2005 with the Board of Supervisors of Buchanan County, Virginia, and would have received first floor flooding should an event equal to the April 1977 flood occur. Additionally, program eligibility is determined by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. In order to participate in the Buchanan County, Virginia non-structural project, you will need to submit an application. With that application, you will need to include a copy of your deed to the property. If the property is occupied by a tenant, we will also need an application from the tenant. If you are a tenant applying for the program, we will need a copy of an application from the owner. If the property is occupied by a mobile home, we will need a copy of the mobile home title as part of the application. Participation is your choice. However, to participate, you must apply. This application grants the Corps of Engineers permission to come onto your property for project purposes. You can choose to withdraw after applying, but once you have withdrawn, you cannot re-enter the program. There are two types of eligibility for the Buchanan County project: floodproofing or acquisition. You will be able to identify your eligibility based on the designation at the end of the track number. If there is an FP at the end of the track number, you will be eligible for floodproofing. If there is no FP, you will be eligible for acquisition. First, let's discuss floodproofing. Floodproofing defined is any combination of structural or non-structural additions, changes, or adjustments to a building that reduce or prevent flood damage to the structure or its contents. Again, this is a voluntary program. The protection level for floodproofing is the 1977 plus 1 foot or the 100-year plus 1 foot, whichever is greater. Common non-structural flood risk management measures include elevation or raise in place, on-site relocation, wet floodproofing, dry floodproofing, or buyout and acquisition. Let's look at the floodproofing process. First, we will evaluate for environmental compliance. We will inspect the property to see if there is any HTRW or hazardous toxic radioactive waste concerns that need to be addressed prior to any construction activities. We will also inspect the property for asbestos. If asbestos is found, it will need to be addressed during the construction activity. We will also look to see if there is a sanitary option. If there is not a sanitary option for the property, it will need to be converted to acquisition. Once environmental compliance is met, the Corps of Engineers will do a site inspection. At that time, we will discuss the process and the options with the landowner and determine the appropriate floodproofing measure. Once the appropriate floodproofing measure has been determined, the homeowner will receive a homeowner's floodproofing package. This package will include a message to the homeowner, a message to the contractor, and guide plans and specifications. The homeowner will then solicit construction proposals from contractors of their choice. Once the contractor has been selected by the homeowner, the contractor will provide a proposal to the homeowner for the floodproofing of the structure in accordance with the guide plans and specs. The contractor works for the homeowner and must be licensed in the state of Virginia. The contractor will provide a proposal to the homeowner for the floodproofing of the structure in accordance with the guide plans and specs. The homeowner will then provide the proposal to the Corps of Engineers. The proposal will be compared to an independent government estimate, and an official offer will be made to the homeowner. Once the official offer has been made to the homeowner, the Corps of Engineers and the homeowner will enter into a floodproofing agreement. The agreement is between the Corps of Engineers and the homeowner and not their contractor. It will include a not to exceed offer amount. The contractor is identified in the agreement. The agreement restricts property in perpetuity from the development below the design flood level. It also provides the right to the floodplain administrator for future inspections to assure no development violations have occurred. There are no progress payments as part of the floodproofing. Payment is made jointly to the homeowner and the contractor upon completion. Let's look at the construction process. Once this agreement has been executed, the homeowner will give notice to proceed. Construction typically takes 3 months. The homeowner must vacate the property during the construction, and the homeowner is responsible for the contractor's performance. The Corps of Engineers will provide inspections of critical components of the construction, and at the homeowner's request, a final inspection and release of payment will be completed. This slide provides an example of different stages of the floodproofing process. Now let's discuss the acquisition process. If the structure cannot be flood-proofed, it will be eligible for the acquisition program. If you choose to, the Corps of Engineers, on behalf of the Board of Supervisors of Dickinson County, Virginia, will acquire your property and assist you in relocating. So now let's begin looking at the details of the acquisition process. First, the government will need to write a legal description. This legal description will be accomplished by completing a survey on the property. Once the survey is completed, the government will be able to complete the legal description. This will include a derivation clause that cites the source deed for where the owner acquired their interest in the property. Once the legal description is complete, the government will perform an environmental inspection. This inspection will look at the property to determine if there are any environmental concerns that may impact the acquisition of the property. If there are no environmental concerns, the government will then order a preliminary title to verify ownership and identify any encumbrances or liens that may affect the government's ability to acquire the property on behalf of the sponsor. Once the government has received a preliminary title and started performing curative actions, we will then request an appraisal. This will be completed by either a contract appraiser or staff appraiser. The appraiser will contact the landowner in order to set up an appointment to inspect the property. This appraisal will determine the fair market value of the tract. Once the legal description, environmental inspection, title, and appraisal have been complete, the government will then make an offer to the homeowner. That offer will be based on the fair market value as determined by the appraisal. Also at that time, you will be contacted by a relocations advisor to discuss benefits under Public Law 91-646, which you may be entitled to. Once the government has completed the acquisition, there may be a term of occupancy. This concludes our discussion on floodproofing and acquisition. My office has provided you with an application and a return envelope to participate in the program. Please complete the application and return. As a reminder, a copy of the deed is needed in order to process your application. If there is a mobile home on the property, a copy of that mobile home title is also required. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact the Real Estate Division toll-free at 888-841-9649 or by using the mailing address below. Thank you.